Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal 156 based on novel. So let's start. Huan Wuqing raised his head to look at the light screen and quickly said, "Speak." If Liu Mai's 10,000 illusion heavenly devil Dao was complete, then he could just devour it. However, her Dao wasn't complete, so if she wasn't willing to give it up, then it was very likely that her Dao would collapse before he could successfully devour it. Liu Mai softly said, "The first thing is to help me kill Wang Lin." Her gaze pierced through the light screen at Wang Lin. Her eyes revealed a trace of a very complex hatred. Even until now, her hatred for Wang Lin still filled her heart. This kind of hate was something even she herself felt was a bit unreal. However, deep in her heart, she couldn't forget the youth she saw several hundred years ago at the Hengyu sect, first sect Wang Lin joined. What she couldn't forget even more was Wang Lin's tenderness toward Li Muwen. The matter in the Suzaku tomb was what really lit up her hatred. After she left planet Suzaku and found out that she was pregnant, her hatred became even stronger. However, her 10,000 illusion ruthless domain made it so that she couldn't really tell which was her true self. In the end, ruthlessness and sentiment were still emotions. The difference between them was very small, but the distance was worlds apart. These very complex emotions made it so that she couldn't even tell what was the truth. This made her feel extremely complex emotions most of the time, especially when she looked at her child. Without any hesitation, the Huan family's ancestor decisively said, "Okay, I'll do my best to help you achieve this. The second thing. If you can't kill Wang Lin, then just give him this bag of holding." Liu Mai took out a bag of holding from her bosom. She revealed a hint of softness as he looked at the bag. The Huan family's ancestor frowned but still nodded. The scattered demon controlled Wang Lin's body and landed punch after punch on the light screen. As countless ripples and cracks appeared on the light screen, the scattered devil laughed and shouted, "Break." After that one word, the sound of a mirror falling and cracking could be heard, but the sound was magnified several thousand times. This sound echoed across the heavens and earth. The last protective spell left by the Huan family's celestial ancestor had shattered. When the scattered devil closed in, it gave off a monstrous amount of devilish energy that diffused across the world. Within the devilish energy, Wang Lin could see Liu Mai sitting on the ground with the Huan family's ancestor behind her. The Huan family's ancestor had his eyes closed and his hand on Liu Mai's forehead. The Huan family's ancestor was giving off a strange aura. "Hey!" The scattered devil was startled. At this moment, the Huan family's ancestor suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes revealed a hint of grey, and in a flash, he flew into the air. His whole body was like smoke, giving off an illusory feel. The scattered devil looked at him attentively and then said, with a smile that was not a smile, "Little child, your cultivation method is pretty good. It actually contains a bit of my ancient devil's cultivation." Wang Lin's gaze wasn't on the Huan family's ancestor but on Liu Mai. Her eyes were closed, and her aura was completely gone. He didn't know what he was feeling. Wang Lin still didn't withdraw his divine sense. The Huan family's ancestor was like smoke as he condensed in the air. The grey light in his eyes was very strong. He took a deep breath and calmly looked at the scattered devil controlling Wang Lin and slowly said, "I only have one spell. Do you dare to take it?" The scattered devil laughed and said, "Show it to me." The Huan family's ancestor closed his eyes. He had absorbed Liu Mai's domain and recovered the celestial spiritual energy he had given her. Although his cultivation hadn't completely recovered to what it was before, there wasn't much of a difference. However, he had no confidence in facing the scattered devil that had fused with Wang Lin. Even if he wanted to run, he wouldn't be able to escape from the devil's spells. That was why he had pinned all his hopes on the trace of the heavenly devil Dao in his body. After devouring Liu Mai's domain and fusing it with his own, he finally produced a trace of the identityless heavenly devil Dao, but it was simply too little. A strange aura came out as the Huan family's ancestor closed his eyes. He revealed a painful expression and his body rapidly withered. In the blink of an eye, he seemed to have turned into a skeleton. Shortly after, even his bones melted and completely disappeared. Finally, The Huan family's ancestor completely disappeared, leaving behind a bag of holding. It was because of the Huan family's ancestors' Dao that it didn't dissipate and floated toward the ground. A dense mass of grey smoke spread out at the moment his body disappeared. The Huan family's ancestor's origin soul was inside. The grey gas churned and entered his origin soul, causing it to gradually become more transparent. Eventually, it was as if his origin soul was about to disappear, but just at this moment, a powerful sense of crisis appeared in Wang Lin's heart. However, the scattered devil revealed a very interested gaze and said, "This spell is interesting, very interesting." The true identityless heavenly devil Dao was to completely become an identityless heavenly devil. Every life in the world could become a devil and therefore had no identity. Collecting the evil intent of all creatures and infusing it into the identityless heavenly devil Dao would allow one to become a carefree heavenly devil. The Huan family's ancestor's body dissipated and his origin soul turned into nothing. At this instant, countless illusions appeared from all directions. Waves of terrifying auras came from these illusions. Each of them were no weaker than yin and yang stage cultivators, some of them were even more powerful. The identityless heavenly devil Dao spell was very shocking, and it hadn't displayed its true power yet. This was merely the start. However, just at this moment, a mass of black smoke suddenly came out from Wang Lin's head. The scattered devil rushed out of Wang Lin's body and leaped out with an ecstatic laugh. At the same time, it opened its mouth and began swallowing. In an instant, a majority of the illusions were devoured by it. What good nutrients! You little children really suit this devil's tastes. You sure know what to bring to honor this devil. If it wasn't for the fact that I have already made a promise, I really wouldn't want to kill you. The scattered devil laughed and devoured another mouthful. Without the scattered devil, Wang Lin regained control of his body. In a flash, he arrived on the ground and with one step he stood before Liu Mai. Liu Mai's eyes were already closed and there was no vitality left in her body. Her cultivation had already reached the ascendant stage, meaning her origin soul and domain had already fused. Devouring her domain meant devouring her origin soul as well. On the other side, as the scattered devil continued to devour, all of the illusions eventually disappeared. In mid-air, the almost illusionary Huan family ancestor condensed once more and his face was filled with bitterness. He only had a sliver of the identityless heavenly devil Dao. If Liu Mai's domain was complete, he would have become a true identityless heavenly devil and wouldn't have become the scattered devil's nutrients. After letting out a sigh, the Huan family's ancestor's body moved and prepared to escape. The scattered devil let out a laugh and his devilish energy spread out. The Huan family's ancestor was wrapped inside and was devoured by the scattered devil. Little doll Wang Lin, this devil has fulfilled his promise. The scattered devil suddenly turned around and gloomily looked at Wang Lin. Then it took one step toward the void and disappeared without a trace. The surroundings were completely silent, the Huan family members were all quiet. Everything that had happened today shocked them greatly and made them deeply respect Wang Lin. Wang Lin calmly looked at the close-eyed Liu Mai. For a long time, he didn't speak. Huan Fengshan hesitated for a bit before stepping forward and saying, "Fellow cultivator," before Liu Mai left, she made a deal with Huan Wuqing. If he couldn't kill you, he had to give you a bag of holding. Wang Lin raised his head and his gaze fell on the bag of holding that fell when Huan Wuqing lost his body. He waved his hand and the bag landed in his hand. There was a pill and a piece of jade inside and nothing else. Holding the jade, Wang Lin's divine sense went inside. The pill is an antidote to the child's resentment. Combine it with a thunder cultivator, most of the resentment can be dissolved. Back then, Master told me to leave my shadow in your heart. Back then, I couldn't do it, however, now I did. The gentle spring breeze blew by, sweeping away some of the dust on the ground. The breeze blew on Liu Mai's body. A diamond-shaped fragment gradually flew off Liu Mai's forehead and went with the wind. At the same time, more fragments came out of Liu Mai's body and were blown away. Eventually, her entire body turned into these butterfly-like pieces. They were all caught by the wind as they drifted far away with the wind. It was as if Liu Mai's figure appeared in the sky. She looked down on the earth, played with her hair, and smiled. She went further and further until she reached the edge of the horizon. Wang Lin raised his head as he looked at the sky and remained silent. Above life and death is karma. The karmatic cause of the past will cause the karmatic effect of today. Let dirt return to dirt, let dust return to dust. All of this is just a fragment of memories of the past. A dream that one has not awakened from. Wang Lin let out a sigh as he turned around and left. Did she really die? As Wang Lin left, he didn't continue to pursue this question. Whether Liu Mai had really died or not no longer mattered. The dust had settled and the dirt had returned to the earth. Wang Lin's back gradually disappeared from the Huan family's view until he disappeared completely over the horizon. What was left were the lingering memories of generations of the Huan family's descendants. Wang Lin didn't wipe out the Huan family. He was very tired, very tired. What was tired was not his body but his heart. He had experienced too much during his 800 years of cultivation. On planet Ran Yun in the Fallen Moon Village, there was one extra family. This family was very strange. There were only two people. One was a young-looking youth with an ancient aura and a baby. At the same time, in the All-Heaven star system, Greed was wandering around with a gloomy expression. There were simply too many restrictions on his body, to the point that every time he thought about them his scalp would go numb and his heart would turn cold. Damned Wang Lin, if I can't find him soon, one of the restriction on my body will activate and I will die without a grave. The sky was blue like a spread-out roll of satin silk. The few white clouds were like embellishment that made the blue silk even more beautiful. Under the Quillian mountain, a small river extended down. It extended for several kilometers before entering a large river. In this place lied a mountain village that was lush and filled with life. Back then, the water in this river was sweet and sometimes clouds appeared on Quillian Peak. If someone could take a breath in the cloud, it was said their body would become very healthy and not get sick for 10 years. A youth's voice came from the mountain village. This youth was about 14 or 15 years old and looked very boorish. At this moment, he was talking to the 7 or 8 children before him about what happened 5 years ago. Look at me, have I ever been sick in all these years? It's because my father took me to take a breath of the cloud. That taste, it was so comfortable. The youth was very proud as he gestured and spoke vividly. Beside him, the 7 or 8 children all had their eyes wide open, revealing looks of excitement. It was obvious they were all engrossed by the story and all wished they could go suck a mouthful of that cloud. Wang Ping, out of all of us, you really are the one that needs to go suck a mouthful the most. Unfortunately, after the heavenly grandpa became angry, that cloud disappeared. If it was still there and your father took you up, you wouldn't get sick for 10 years. The youth's gaze fell on a boy in the crowd. This boy was about 5 or 6 years old. His face was pale and his body was weak. He was a lot shorter than the other children, but he was very handsome. If it wasn't for his sickly appearance, he would look as lovely as a porcelain doll. He was wearing a sweater, and his eyes were filled with excitement as he said, "Brother Jew, I'll ask my dad to take me there once I get home." The youth laughed and said, "Uncle Carpenter Wang is good at carving, but the clouds on Quillian Peak are all gone now, so how can he take you? Listen to me, it's better if you all learn from me and learn sword arts every day. This can help strengthen the body, and when we grow up, we can travel the martial world." The youth's lofty ideals made the excitement in the other children's eyes even stronger. Just as the youth also became excited, various calls came from the village. The youth raised his head and sighed. "Okay, today's martial arts assembly is now over. Once we finish dinner, we can begin once more." The children scattered with a hint of reluctance. The child called Wang Ping walked toward the village with excitement in his eyes. He would sometimes look back at Quillian Peak. As he walked, a burly man came from the village. This person was very large, and he was holding a military fork plus a bow and arrows and had a deer hanging over his shoulder. The burly man saw the child and smiled. "Wang family's little child, did you go with my family's kid to have a martial arts assembly?" The child shyly nodded and said, "Greetings, Uncle Jew." The burly man's smile became even wider. He rubbed the child's head and laughed. "You are indeed the child of a craftsman. Not only are you more handsome, but you know more etiquette than that smelly kid of mine. You are about to go home, right? Let's go, Uncle Ju will go together with you. I need to discuss something with your dad. The child quickly nodded and led the burly man back to his home. Not long after, a simple house appeared in the northern end of the village. The child ran a few steps and shouted, "Dad, Uncle Ju is here." A young man walked out from the house. This person looked very ordinary and had nothing special about him. He was not nearly as handsome as the child. When standing with the child, many people wouldn't guess that they were father and son. The youth was wearing coarse, linen clothes and his hands were filled with blisters. As he walked out the door, he smiled. "Big brother Ju, today's harvest looks good." The child ran into the room and took out a white steamed bun. He arrived next to the young man, pulled up a wooden stool, sat down, and began to eat. The burly man named Ju put down the deer and laughed. "Brother Wang, I encountered this deer just as I was going up the mountain. The harvest was not bad." The young man faintly smiled gently. He touched the head of the child and laughed. With Big Brother Ju's martial arts, it isn't difficult to take down a deer. The burly man from the Ju family laughed. "Brother Wang, the boy in my family is not small. In 2 more years, I'm going to build him a house and get a daughter-in-law. This house is about to be built and just lacks a set of furniture. I'll have to bother Brother Wang for this." Wang Lin smiled and said, "No problem. Big Brother Ju can rest assured." The burly man from the Ju family laughed. "Okay, this deer will be the deposit." With that, he turned around and left. Just as he left, the child jumped off the stool. He quickly arrived next to the deer and examined it left and right. "Dad, Uncle Ju sure is powerful. He was able to hunt this kind of beast." The young man revealed a gentle gaze and smiled. "Don't look at it now. Ping it is time to take your medicine." The child sighed. He raised his head to look at the young man and said, "Dad, the medicine is very bitter." The young man came out of the room with a bowl filled with a white liquid. This liquid had no smell. The child frowned as he drank mouthfuls of the medicine. After he finished drinking, his little face was frowning hard. He quickly ran to the water barrel and drank a few times before finally dispelling the bitterness from his mouth. "Dad, when can Ping stop drinking this medicine?" The child looked back at his father. This father and child were Wang Lin and Wang Ping. Wang Lin's gaze was gentle as he softly said, "Soon." Late at night, the moonlight fell on earth as if a layer of silver silk had been thrown over the land. The coolness of the moonlight began to spread, causing the mountain village under Quillian Peak to become silent. Aside from a few weak barks, there were no other sounds. Inside the room, Wang Ping had already fallen asleep. Although his little face was pale, he was sleeping well. His mouth revealed a smile. He was clearly having a good dream. Wang Lin was sitting next to Wang Ping when thunder flashed between his eyebrows. He slowly raised his right hand and the thunder moved from his eyebrows to the tip of his right hand. Wang Lin gently pressed his hand between Wang Ping's eyebrows. The thunder instantly flowed through Wang Ping's body. Black gas emerged from the child's body and gathered on his skin. The black gas gradually became even denser and churned under the thunder. Finally, it suddenly charged away from the child's body and Wang Lin quickly raised his right hand to grab it. All of the black gas was caught and then condensed into a ball of black mist. His right hand formed a fist and the ball of black mist was crushed. Wang Ping's face showed a bit of redness. Looking at the child, Wang Lin let out a sigh. He covered the child again with the sheet that was kicked away and then walked out of the room. Inside the courtyard, the moonlight fell on Wang Lin's body. This gave his body a hint of the moonlight's loneliness. Wang Lin muttered to himself, 5 years. 5 years ago, Wang Lin returned to planet Ranyun and settled down in the Fallen Moon village. The reason he chose this place was because this village was very similar to his hometown. Wang Ping was that resentful spirit. Thanks to the pill Liui left and the help of Wang Lin's thunder spell, a lot of his resentment had dissipated, allowing him to be like a normal child. However, if he didn't take the medicine every day and get treated by Wang Lin, he would revert back to what he was before. There was an entire process to completely expel the resentfulness. Wang Ping's memory had been wiped clean by Wang Lin, and he was given a new life. Inside this quiet village, Wang Lin's heart also calmed down. He was far away from the slaughter and strife, there was only the calm-as-water life. Wang Lin's life was very stable. He lived like his own father and survived off being a carpenter. It was his father's wish. If he couldn't pass the imperial exam, then he would become a carpenter and follow the footsteps of his father. There were various carpentry tools in the yard. This was a portrait of his 5 years here. Every time he saw Wang Ping go out to play with the children, Wang Lin would think back to when he was his age. He would do the same and wouldn't come home until it was time to eat. Under the moonlight, footsteps came from outside the courtyard. A staggering figure gradually approached. "The child is asleep." An ancient voice came, and following that, a slightly hunchback figure entered the courtyard. Wang Lin slightly nodded but didn't speak. When the old figure entered the courtyard, the moonlight fell on his body. This person was Sun Tai. Sun Tai looked even older, his face was filled with wrinkles. After Wang Lin had been here for 3 years, Sun Tai came. He was like a lonely old man who didn't want to be alone when he leaves this world. Sun Tai looked at the house under the moonlight with eyes filled with kindness. He didn't know why, but he loved this child called Wang Ping a lot. Sun Tai withdrew his gaze and slowly said, "How long do you intend to accompany this child for?" The deathly aura on his body was even stronger. Wang Lin silently pondered for a long time before looking up at the moon and softly saying, "One reincarnation cycle." Reincarnation cycle. Sun Tai let out a sigh and said, "Don't you want him to become a cultivator? With your cultivation, you can let this child have a much easier path on the road of cultivation. He can have an even bigger advantage than some direct descendants of cultivation families." Wang Lin's eyes revealed a dejected look and he softly said, "I will not let him cultivate in his life." Sun Tai pondered a bit and said, "This child's talent is very good. I won't let him cultivate." Wang Lin's gaze fell on Sun Tai and he said, "Never." Wang Lin asked himself, cultivation, what is at the end of cultivation? His entire life was not happy, and it was a lonely road. He didn't want his own child to experience it. The cruelty of the cultivation world, the slaughter and dangers of the cultivation world. He understood it all too well. Ping-er has already experienced many things that he shouldn't have. I named him Wang Ping with the hope that his life will be peaceful and safe. I hoped he'd become a mortal who will get married and raise children, live a quiet life. From now on, never mention the matter about cultivation again. Wang Lin's voice was filled with resolve. It would not be changed and it couldn't be changed. Time quickly passed, spring left and winter came, and another 5 years went by. This year's winter came especially early. Before it was winter, a large amount of snow was already covering the earth. Some of the remaining dead leaves on the branches were frozen. As the cold wind blew, the withered leaves and the snow fell together. It was like a person's lifespan. Although filled with reluctance and unwillingness to leave when the cold, snowy wind comes, they couldn't help but be taken by the breeze. In these 5 years, 5 elderly people died and 3 new lives were born. It was as if the reincarnation cycle had begun to turn while people had no awareness of it. Sun Tai became even older. His house was right next to Wang Lin's. This house was bright, but it had a hint of twilight. Like a mortal who knew that his time was about to be up, he didn't like to stay inside his room. He sat in the courtyard, looking at the sky. He was accompanied by his shining memories. Wang Ping was now 10 years old, but compared to the other children in the village, he looked like he was only 7 or 8 years old. However, his little face had more color compared to 5 years ago. The 10-year-old Wang Ping was extremely handsome, and the village's residents were all fond of this well-behaved and beautiful child. Among his playmates, many of the little girls were filled with goodwill toward the carpenter's son. This big snowstorm caused the day to become very chilly. Sun Tai peacefully sat in the courtyard. He was wearing a thick coat as he looked up at the sky, and his eyes were filled with reminiscence. Beside him, Wang Ping was also wearing a thick coat and looking at the sky in a daze. "Ping-er, why did you come here to visit this old man instead of accompanying your father?" Sun Tai's eyes were filled with kindness. He really did like this child from the bottom of his heart. If it wasn't for Wang Lin, who said he wouldn't let this child cultivate, He really would have taught this child everything he knew. Wang Ping pouted and said, with displeasure, "I'm not going back, Auntie Zhong is there again." Sun Tai faintly smiled and shook his head. "Child, you can rest assured, your father won't agree." Wang Ping frowned as he counted with his fingers and said, "Not necessarily. Grandpa son, look how many times Auntie Zhong came in the last 3 years. I have been keeping count, it's a total of 12 times. 12 times, ah. Why do most of the big sisters and aunties all have their eyes on my father?" Sun Tai laughed as he looked outside the courtyard and smiled. "Don't worry about your dad. Look outside, it seems like the second daughter of the Zhu family came looking for you." Wang Ping was startled as he raised his head and looked outside the courtyard. He saw a 7 or 8-year-old little girl with a red face gradually approach. "Big brother Wang, are you here?" The girl's crisp voice came from outside the courtyard. Wang Ping frowned and shouted, "I'm not here, you should go." With that, he simply walked out from the courtyard. He didn't even look at the girl with water gathering in her eyes and ran toward his own home. Sun Tai saw this and couldn't help but laugh. The kindness in his eyes became even stronger. At this moment, Wang Lin was in a different situation from Sun Tai. He was frowning as he faced a young woman who was constantly complaining. His face was filled with a bitter smile. Wang Lin seemed to have grown slightly older during these 5 years. It was the same as when he turned into a mortal. In order to not frighten the mortals, his appearance was no longer young and he had stepped toward the middle age. The vicissitude in his eyes gave him a strange temperament even though he was only middle-aged. The young woman was very feminine. She looked at Wang Lin and earnestly said, "Brother Wang, look, Wang Ping is already 10 years old and has had a bitter life without a mother. If you don't care about yourself, then at least think about the child. The daughter of the Zhao family at the entrance of the village is a beautiful girl, and she is willing to follow you. She even promised to treat the child like he was her own. What are you dissatisfied with?" Wang Lin's bitter smile became even stronger as he helplessly said, "This matter, let's forget about it." The young woman didn't give up and continued, "Ah, Brother Wang, why must you be like this? I know you never got married again because you loved Ping Er's mother. However, you still have to live your life. When I saw you come here 10 years ago with just a baby, this mother. Well, I wasn't married at the time, but look at me now. My child is already 8 years old." Just at this moment, Wang Ping mercilessly pushed over the door. He looked at the young woman and silently sat down. Seeing that the young woman was about to continue speaking, Wang Ping shouted, "Dad, I'm hungry." Wang Lin sighed a breath of relief and said, "Let's stop this conversation here." The young woman let out a sigh and shook her head. "If you are not willing, there is no need to force it. But Brother Wang, if you fancy anyone, you have to remember to tell me." She looked at Wang Ping and reached out her hand to rub Wang Ping's head. Wang Ping grunted and dodged backwards. The young woman laughed. "This child has such a big temper. You should learn your father. Your father has the most gentle temper in the village. Why else do you think all these beautiful girls want to marry him?" With that, she turned around and left. After the young woman left, Wang Ping asked, "Dad, you?" Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Wang Lin smiled and said, "Children shouldn't worry about these things. Your Auntie Zhong is doing this with good intent. Come here and take your medicine." Wang Ping's eyes widened as he looked at this father and pouted. "But she wants to find Ping Er a stepmother. Ahuzi's father found Ahuzi a stepmother. As a result, Ahuzi doesn't get enough to eat every day and always gets scolded." Wang Lin laughed, then he rubbed Wang Ping's head and smiled. "Okay, I promise you I won't find you a stepmother, alright? Now take your medicine." Wang Lin happily picked up the bowl and drank all the medicine in one gulp. This time the medicine didn't taste bitter, instead, there was a hint of dry sweetness. This sweetness came from his heart, from his love for his father. "Dad, with Ping Er accompanying you, you won't be lonely. Wait for Ping Er to grow up and I'll serve you until you're old." Wang Ping put down his bowl and earnestly looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin smiled and patted Wang Ping's head. He walked out of the room into the courtyard and began to clear the snow with a broom. Once he finished clearing the courtyard, He picked up his tools and began doing his carpentry work. Wang Ping watched his father through the window and silently pondered. His memory was very good, far better than that of other children of the same age. He clearly remembered when he accidentally asked his father where his mother was back when he was 4 years old. At that moment, his father's expression was very strange. He didn't understood what that expression was, but now that he had grown up, he did. That was a downcast expression. He was a sensible child, so from then on, he never asked about his mother again. After winter came, heavy snowstorms came one after another. As the cold winter arrived, the people of the village became less active. The cold winter days passed day by day and soon the spring breeze came. It gradually swept away the coldness of winter. The village's school opened in the spring. The children of the village learned to read and write there. The days passed like this. They were calm like water without any ripples. Among the calmness, a hint of tenderness washed Wang Lin's tired heart. As Wang Ping grew up day by day, Wang Lin no longer persistently pursued enlightenment but silently watched Wang Ping with the heart of a father. During these 10 years, except for when he was expelling Wang Ping's resentment, he didn't use any other spells. It was as if he had forgotten about everything. However, as he forgot everything, a comprehension of the life and death cycle silently formed in Wang Lin's heart. As Wang Ping grew, it became more profound. Wang Lin had a very profound understanding of the death part of the life and death cycle, but he didn't have much comprehension of life. As time passed and as his Tao heart relieved its exhaustion, it was also slowly moving toward completion. After a perfect life and death, the karma cycle would be next. Wang Lin's Tao slowly evolved in this peaceful life. If a powerful cultivator saw this kind of change, they would be shocked because this was not a simple change but a huge change in one's domain. A domain was a special comprehension that cultivators had after the celestial realms shattered. It could be said that the Tao a cultivator walked was formed from their domain. The root of all of this was very deeply related to domain. Therefore, each domain was almost fixed for every cultivator, and it was very rare for a domain to evolve. The reason Liui had caught the attention of the Huan family's ancestor was because her domain showed signs of evolving. This caused the Huan family's ancestor to willingly give up looking for the heaven-defying bead and quickly bring Liui back to the Huan family. The root cause of all of this, aside from wanting to devour her domain, was that he was afraid someone like her would be stolen by someone else. Wang Lin was currently walking down this road. However, because he lacked comprehension in the life part of his life and death domain, even though he had shown signs of evolving into the karma domain, his domain hadn't evolved yet. As a result, the present was a key moment in Wang Lin's life. It could even determine his future achievements. Wang Lin kind of understood this matter. However, if he had a choice, he would never pay this price for this opportunity that all other cultivators dreamed of. Spring passed and autumn came, and another 6 years passed. Sun Tai's time arrived. It seemed to have come a bit earlier than expected. When he was lying in his own house, the people that were there to send him off were only Wang Lin and Wang Ping. At this moment, he was like the withered leaves that were blown away by the big snowstorm 6 years ago. Wang Ping was already 16 years old, and he had started to look more and more like Liui. This kind of appearance on a boy made him exceptionally handsome. However, his eyes were pure and showed a clear distinction between black and white. During his 16 years of growth, he came to understand a lot of things. Things like the fact that Grandpa's son knew his father from a long time ago and respected his father a lot. This respect was never shown through how they talked or on the surface, it came from the bones, and Wang Ping could clearly feel it. Wang Lin appeared even older now. He calmly looked at Sun Tai and slowly said, "Sun Tai, I'll do what I promised you back then." This video will end here.